Right. Welcome to the B2B webinar about marketing in a nowadays world. Normally, if everything goes well, you should be able to hear me. Sorry for the delay. Security settings again. B2B in the marketing world nowadays. I'm always very excited when I can talk about marketing, especially B2B. But maybe let's start with a small scope of today. So what the webinar is not about, to be honest, it's not about showcasing great campaigns from IBM or big brands where you can say, well, Hans, that's great. If I have 2 million to spare, I will use it one day. It's not about showcasing how you can execute better just for sales as a sales supporter. And it's not about me trying to sell you anything. What it is all about today is trying to figure out together what we can do. Maybe just to build a case why marketeers can now more than ever help sales in improving their performance. It can be about showcasing that every brand in B2B can do great marketing. I've used some cases that I will show you later on about call centers, about law firms, just to see what they can do. And it's also about explaining a bit the fundamentals in B2B marketing. What's happening? What is important in nowadays world? What do I have to take care of? And then finally give you 6 simple steps to do great marketing. Now, it's great to be a B2B marketer, and I'll explain you why within the next 30 minutes. Well, first of all, I think, and I really believe that in B2B marketing, nowadays you can create a huge impact, not just for sales, but also for your company, for your brand equity. And I will take you through this step by step. Let's have a look at some of the numbers that are quite relevant in this context. 70% of B2B decision makers, they declare that they take their decision on potential suppliers before anyone contacts them. So what this means is that B2B people, decision makers who are looking for information, are eager to find out more without having spoken to someone. Actually, what it also said is in research that 2 out of 3 B2B buyers prefer remote human or digital self-service before doing something else. Another number that is quite interesting is that typically there are 6 to 10 people deciding on the purchase of a complicated B2B solution. That's not always the case, but it gives you an idea of the number of people who are going to evaluate your offer. And they also say that every one of them has 4 to 5 resources or sources for information they have individually gathered. Now, individually gathered means they are going to look for information before they've ever spoken to one of your salespersons. And of course, this information should be coherent and consistent. So just those 2 numbers kind of give you an indication that as a marketeer, you have to be ahead of the game. You have to help your sales company, you have to help your sales team, but you also have to give them information. And what you're about to do as a marketeer is you have to build trust. Because in the past, trust was built when you met the sales representative. Nowadays, trust is being built with the first contact. What this means is that there is a big shift going on from what B2B was in the past and where it's moving towards. Now, in the past, people said, well, it's all about being rational. It's all about sales giving the lead. It's all about product, explaining the product, price, and the relationship between salespeople and the customer or prospect was very important. So as a result, marketeers and communication people in general, they were more shifted toward more executive jobs, where if you go out to see what's happening today, marketing is really crucial in this playing field. Brands are becoming more important. I will elaborate on that a bit later. Customers are more and more being seen as just people. So emotional factors are playing a massive role in nowadays marketing and communication, also in B2B. Relating to this emotional brand can also help them make easier decisions when they look at your service offering or your products. And there is also a growing awareness of what is your company doing? What does it stand for? What is it taking its responsibility in nowadays world? So all these elements have to be in place before potential clients are going to decide on what you would like to do. If you have any questions, I'll try to revert to them at the end of the presentation. So please do not hesitate. What it means that as a marketeer, you have the potential to do much more, to create real impact. And not just that, with the nowadays world, you also have the technology, the platforms to showcase the case that you're building and the numbers to prove it. Now, what about tomorrow? Good question. Well, actually what you see, there are different things coming up. First of all, boundaries between private and professional are blurring. So it's not just that we only have one channel like LinkedIn that you can use if you're in a B2B context. You can use all sorts of channels. I'll give you some examples from that later on. Business buyers as well, they represent their organizations, but they're individuals. So you should think of them as just human beings who like to have a clear communication, decisive communication with an emotional level. So don't try to just focus on the rational of things. Use the emotional elements, whether it's about products or services that you're offering, in opposition to pure functional elements that you try to bring across. And because you're in this driving seat, you can also indicate where you can grow your brand, your company, or your products and services. So trust, that's great, Hans, but what should I do? How can I build trust? Well, first of all, of course, you have a brand, you have product names. You can start from there, but that's not the only thing you can do. And I will take you through this step by step. The first, and I think most of you are already aware of this, you can build trust by building thought leadership. Now, thought leadership, let us just think about what this exactly means. Thought leaderships are being defined as informed opinion leaders and the go-to people in their field of expertise. So the people, the brands, the company you would go to if you have questions, because they're trusted sources who move and inspire people with innovative ideas. If this person would talk to you and say, hey, I have a new product, what do you think? Would you be interested? I guess so. Or if this person would say, hey, there's a new marketing model, I think this could be something of value. Would you listen? I would definitely say yes. There are even people who might not have all the expertise. Some people think she's a thought leader, and maybe she's right, maybe she's not. The key thing is that for people to be a thought leader, it's to become an authority on relevant topics, which doesn't mean you have to know everything. It can also be explaining that you're doing the journey together and you try to figure out what it's all about. And I think in a transparent world, that's often always maybe even a safe choice. Instead of proclaiming you know everything, just say, hey, these are the domains we're looking on. This is where we are. If you have anything you add, please reach out to us. We're open for conversation. And use that as creating thought leadership towards your target audience. Now, from this thought leadership, I'll just give you some examples on how you can build thought leadership. So you don't have to work for 6 years and then say, now we're a thought leader. This is also be something that you can build step by step, because it's an entry point. It's an entry point to the relationship where you can intrigue, challenge, maybe ask questions, inspire people so they already get familiar with the elements which you're talking about. And familiarity is the first step to creating trust. So it's the start of a relationship, and you can build on that step by step. Now, Harvard was one of those companies that started early on thinking about sustainability. And although they were trying to figure out, they said, you know what, we want to build thought leadership in this area. So we created Have Positive Impact, where people could reach out, ask questions, and they would tell about their journey, where they are. And it created them actually a good reputation on thought leadership, sustainability in the industry they're in, which is protective wear. Quite interesting case. And it gives you a good example on how you can do this step by step. But the good thing is, it was not just about creating thought leadership. It was also about doing a bit more. And that's the fourth element that is quite relevant. It's not just about bringing expertise on the table. It's also about adding something from a marketing perspective, which says, well, why are we doing this? What is our purpose? Where are we going? What's the direction? And what is the value that we might bring across? So what you see is happening is that it's not just about creating this brand and relying on people to trust the brand. Thought leadership and adding purpose in your marketing communication really adds value and makes you become the trusted and preferred brand you want to become. Another example of how this could work, Bol.com, a well-known marketplace in the Benelux. They are well-known. They don't really have to build awareness, but even though, how could they reach out to potential B2B partners, and how could they become more relevant? Well, with the lockdown, they decided to do the campaign towards entrepreneurials and say, you know what, your shop is closed, but maybe we can help you with the online world. And from this purpose perspective, this worked out really well because they were helping, they were delivering value for entrepreneurs who got in a lockdown. And because they wanted to lower the barrier to reach out to Bol, they contacted Kamal Karmach, who was at that time a thought leader, well-known person with the trusted factor, just to make it more easy to get in touch with Bol.com. Once again, a great case, I think, campaign on how you can build thought leadership, how you can use purpose, and how you can become more and more relevant for your clients and prospects. So with these four elements in place, these are the piece of the puzzle where you have to start thinking about. And it's just, once again, it's a step by step. Don't try to do anything at the same time. Okay, why is this so massive going forward? Well, actually, what it turned out is the B2B Institute, and they just came out with a report mentioning what would be the big trends going forward. And in their perspective, there are three quite relevant. The first one is brand building. The second one is coming up with creative strategies. And the third one is the end of hyper-targeting. And they say the marketeers in B2B who are able to do that, those will be the most in-demand marketeers by 2030. So it's not just helping your company, it's not just helping your sales team, it's making sure that you are a marketing manager of the future. Wouldn't that be great? Now, this being said, we laid out the four pieces of the puzzle. Great, Hans, I know what to do. Please explain to me how to do it. Well, there are 6 steps that you can take to work on this puzzle and to create impact in your company. And I will elaborate and go through them step by step. Often clients come to me and say, Hans, what should be our focus? Well, good question, because I think, in all honesty, that should be your step number 1. Asking yourself the question, what is going to be our focus? You can do a lot of things, but being able to focus is quite a critical one. Now, it's not an easy one. So what you might do is just as a hint I can give you, because sometimes it's very clear, but you might start with the customer experience, the journey that they have, because what you see in research, once again, is that 80% of the companies, they actually believe that they have an excellent customer service. Their experience is great. Well, to be honest, just an example that I had yesterday, I was trying to ring my bank because I had practical questions, and I really value the marketing and the communication they're doing. But it took me for 40 minutes on the phone because the chatbot was not helping me, and I have to get back to them because they were not able to help me. So although you might think you have everything in place, research says that 80% of companies think they have a great customer experience. But if you ask their clients, 8% of their clients agree on that. So I think for most companies, most brands, there is quite some optimization to do on that level. Once again, it's not me, it's Forbes giving that number, which is quite astonishing, I think. There are also some very interesting differences between B2B marketing and B2C, because the playground is much more interesting from a B2B perspective. It's about purchase price. So in consumer marketing, everybody has the same price. B2B, that's not always the case. Needs might be different. You might be talking about different needs for different customers. The number of customers in general is much lower in B2B. So which means that you can actually invest more in your relation, because normally once you can convert them into customers, you can also gain more money. It's about the assortment. You can create buyer persona for based on different needs. You can start thinking about customer relationship, short-term, long-term, what kind of product information you can bring across. So actually, once again, you have so many elements in B2B where you can play with. The sales cycle is different. So all elements you can look at and start thinking of what opportunities does this create for my brand, for my company. That's what makes great to be a B2B marketer. Okay, Hans, that's great. I feel your enthusiasm, but what about the pitfalls? And of course, there are some things you have to be aware of that you have to take into account. I will just mention a few of them, and I won't have the time to elaborate on all of them, but some of them are quite important. First of all, competition is everywhere. It's not about the boundaries anymore. We live in a digital world, so competition can really come from everywhere. The budget is not determining anymore. So there used to be a time where those players with the big budgets, they could win. Nowadays, it can be a small startup which has a brilliant idea and they can really take you by surprise. So think about clients, think about future prospects, what their needs are, what options you might be able to offer. And you have to become more and more professional, because world is moving fast. It's becoming more complex. So you really have to be very focused on what you're going to do. It's also about finding the right people in your team and looking at the resources that you have. Do you have a team? Do they need education? Can you do everything by yourself, or do you need some experts that might be able to give you some help with that? Technology can definitely be an enabler, but you have to understand the technology and you have to make sure it's part of your ecosystem. And then you can use it to get more insights and to make it more scalable. This being said, while remaining agile, meaning that it does make sense to try small things and see if it works and then scale it. And finally, and I mentioned that in a few slides earlier, companies will be held responsible. So you have to be very prudent about what you put out there and how you will communicate and elaborate on it. So step number 3, evaluate your options. And that's a difficult one, I think. So maybe just to give you some ideas on how you could do that and how you could move forward when thinking about the different options. There are models that you can use online, you can find online. I think the Belgian Association of Marketing has created a model which they call as, or refer to as, the meaningful marketing framework. You can see where are you in your journey with your company and what can I do as a next step. From IO, we have conducted the research with lots of our clients, and we found there are 4 key elements where a lot of companies struggle with. It's how can I grow the love for my brand? What do I have to do to shape a future-proof business? Where am I with my digital ecosystem? And what can I do to accelerate intelligent growth? So these are elements you can just use and say, okay, what do I have to do? What is next on my journey? Don't try to fix everything at the same time. Make your choices and go from there. Now, making those choices is often about taking a step back to look at your customers. What do they need? Where are we with our company, with our brands, and how can we help them? And then start looking forward. So try to have a clear view on expectations. What do they need today, tomorrow? What can we help them with? And what does it mean? And then start thinking about the things you have to invest in, not just on the short term, but also on the mid to long term to create future growth. Because on the short term, you might be focusing only on performance marketing, which is a great asset and which will help your sales. But if you really want to build on brand equity, there once again, you have to start thinking ahead. And once again, the report from the B2B Institute was quite interesting because they were actually seeing it, what would be the big trends, and reverting to this brand building and coming up with creative strategies. They also have an interesting case where it says that, well, brand building will deliver on the long-term growth, whereas brand activation, as they call it, that will deliver on the short term. But nowadays, if you're thinking about time and investing, you should be 50% focusing on short-term brand activation and 50% on more what you call brand building activities. So just to take that as a starting point, doesn't always have to be 50-50, but if you're just focusing on the short term, I can guarantee you will miss out on the long term. Quite interesting study there. And then it's all about making the right choices. You don't have the time to do everything. You don't have the resources to do everything. So let's take it step by step by making the right choices. Once again, just giving you some indications on how you can make those choices. Well, actually, it's quite simple. Just take these two words, relevance and performance, and use that as a starting ground to make the right choices. Where are we with our company, with our products, with our services on the relevance? Why should people choose for our brands? Why should people choose for our company? Are you there? Do you need to do work on that? Might be, but maybe you've done the groundwork. Maybe you're already there. Then start thinking about performance. How well are we performing in nowadays world? And once again, these is really yin and yang. They should be helping out each other. So it's not just putting everything on one, it's really about balancing those out. But just asking yourself that question might give you some clear indications on what you need to be doing for the next weeks and months. Just to give you an example about this relevance, and I mentioned I was going to give you some examples from call centers, from lawyers. We had a law firm, and they also were like, okay, we are actually, if you look at it from the outside, we are providing the same services. So we have international law, we have all kinds of experts in our company, but what makes us stand out between other international law companies? Well, we try to figure it out together with them. This is mainly focusing on how they did it on the relevant side, but then of course you start thinking, how can you bring out this message across from a performance perspective? So I will just showcase what we did together with them. Just won an award, so I think it worked out quite well, not just for them, but they also were highly appreciated within their market, which gave them a reputation, trust, and was something they can start building up. Just giving you the small video.
Ik heb altijd al goed geweten wat ik wou. Als kind al. Advocaat worden en mama zijn. Doen wat goed aanvoelt. En daar ook gewoon voor gaan. Maar wel realistisch blijven, want het gaat niet zomaar vanzelf. De wereld staat nooit stil. Cliënten willen nog sneller advies. En elke situatie wordt nog specifieker. En ondertussen groeien mijn kinderen op. Dat is dikwijls een hele uitdaging. Maar dat ligt nu eenmaal in mijn aard. Liever zoeken naar wat wel kan, dan zeggen wat niet kan. Kansen grijpen, maar ze natuurlijk ook zelf creëren. En samen succes hebben. Ik ben dan ook heel blij dat Lydian perfect op dezelfde golflengte zit. Want dat doet mij groeien. En dat maakt van mij een beter advocaat en ook een betere moeder. En zo kan ik echt een verschil maken. Maar blijf ik toch heel dicht bij wie ik ben. Voor mijn gezin, voor mijn cliënten, voor Lydian.
So they didn't use this from an employer branding perspective. They use this to promote themselves in the international scenery, to say, hey, we're an international company. We've been with you for 20 years, and maybe we might be a good company to turn to. Other example, we all know call centers. Nobody really gets really hot from call centers, but what they did was, and I think it's quite interesting, they used all the ideas and perceptions that people have about call centers as a starting point. And what they're about to do right now is present their call center as a really good alternative for what you know about call centers. Once again, not elaborating, but just showcasing how they did this. So they're doing a campaign online, offline, and it's called Let's Talk About Tomorrow. And what they do, and they're sent to some interesting companies, they'll send a direct mailing, direct marketing, which is good because in the nowadays world, not a lot of companies are doing that. So at least they already stand out. And using the kind of boring music as a starting point, they decided to use that as the next point. So what they are doing, they're sending you a record from Adele, which of course is one of the most well-known. And as a starting point for conversation, they say, well, we don't like for waiting music. That's why we already want to give you this gift. Enjoy, and maybe one day we might start having a conversation. Now, I think this is a great example of how you can start doing proactive campaigning, presenting yourself, creating this trusted brand, lowering the barrier, and giving people something to think about. Sometimes companies, when they have to make these kind of decisions, they already have very clear insights on what clients and prospects and potential clients need. So always starting from those insights, it's crucial. And sometimes it's better just one insight and use that and elaborate on that instead of having multiple insights and not being able to decide what you have to do with it. So always start from the insights, from the data you collect, maybe from conversations that you're having with your salespeople, with clients, or maybe even with people who have not chosen for your company. If you don't have the insight, I would suggest always take a step back and do some kind of research to see, okay, can we gather some of those insights? I think it's quite important to make sure that you're doing the right things moving forward. And if you have that, once again, there are models. If you're working on branding, you can use those at IO. We have the brand anatomy model, which takes your brand from a whole new perspective and to see where you still have to fill in the blanks. But once again, you can find online tools, models for you to do the exercise with your team, with your agency, whatever. And even then, by doing this evaluation and making sure that you made the right choices, this is a framework that I often use, where you can actually use and see, okay, are we making the right choices? So what you can see is you can evaluate all the ideas that you have, evaluate them on short-term impact versus long-term impact, see if they help on sales performance or more help you on the brand awareness and building a reputation in the long term, and then decide, okay, this is what we are going to work on. So just use this to make the right choices and you'll be just fine. Step 5. You have done this, you have the puzzle, you have made your choices. Now it's about going and integrating this in your marketing and business strategy, because we all know you have a lot of work to do. These are the things you have to do, but only doing what you need to do is maybe not the best way to make progress. So really think about, what does it mean from a roadmap? What do I have to do next week? What do I have to do next month? What should we be able to deliver within a few weeks or months? That's quite important. So integrate this in your new way of working, not just trying to fix the things you had to do on your yesterday's to-do list. So thinking about the roadmap, determining what are the priorities, who are the stakeholders. And I think stakeholders are a very important one, because often in meetings, we talk with clients and they say, yeah, but we also have to convince our stakeholders. Well, sure, you have to. They're very important. You have to make sure they are aligned with what you want to do. But there is a big difference between informing them and asking their opinion on everything that you want to do. Once again, very important, not coming from me, but from the B2B Institute, they say that most companies are working focusing too much on creating a consensus. Well, consensus is good if you want to make everybody happy, but maybe if you really want to get results, it's not about creating consensus in your company. It's more about taking decisions, and then it's about taking contrarian decisions. So decisions that might be bold, that maybe not everybody agrees to, but the consensus means that you will end up we're doing everything and communicating about everything because everything is equally important, right? Well, for your customers and your clients, I can guarantee you it's not. So maybe try to shift from consensus to contrarian ideas when taking decisions. And I think this will definitely help. Create a timing, and then of course think about your customer journeys, about the expectation and experience you want to create, as I mentioned earlier. And finally, last but not least, it's about execution. You can have the best strategy in place, but you can fail miserably when you go into execution. So please think about the details. Do try to think about what do we need to do to bring this to the next level, because even a stupid idea in execution can make a world of difference. Now, just to elaborate on a few of the things that I've been mentioning, there's nothing wrong with looking at your B2B target group, but also thinking that you might reach out to them in the first stage as a B2C. They're individuals, they're online, reading newspapers, doing things, looking for things. So don't exclude them when you start building awareness, and then use that as a funnel. Agoria did a great job there. They were well aware that when reaching out to B2B companies, that a lot of decision makers would be different people in the same company. So the decision-making unit is quite big, not always easy to target them, but also they're humans, they're human beings. So what they did is they started on this awareness journey and then took it all the way across to one-on-one communication in their sales funnel, just to showcase how they would explain what the company stands for, what you could expect from the brand, and then later in the journey, explaining to the experts what they could actually deliver.
Agoria verbindt mensen en bedrijven via technologie. Voor meer comfort. Voor een beter leefmilieu. Voor een betere mobiliteit. Voor een veiliger gevoel. Agoria. Improving your quality of life.
So once again, nice example, it's a federation. Most people would not expect a federation to behave like communication toward a big target group, but they could use this to reach out to the bigger target group and as well use this to their B2B target group. We're almost at the end. I've been telling a lot of things, so maybe just time for a short recap about the steps you can take. You have the different pieces of puzzle: purpose, expertise, thought leadership, creating trust, and then becoming the preferred brand or partner. 6 steps you can take. Ask yourself, what should be your focus? Make sure you screen the pitfalls. It's not just about the opportunities, it's about making sure that you have some of those pitfalls in place as well. Evaluate your options that you have, make choices, create the roadmap. What steps do we have to take? When do we have to be where? And then dive into the execution. And if you do all that and you have a plan, and I'm quite sure if you go into execution, you will have a great outcome. And just to give you an inspirational thought, just 2 examples of, I think, one company that did great on all those steps, and they made choices. They're very clear about what they wanted to be recognized for, what was the reputation, what the new product they were going to launch for was all about. And then, as my friend Søren from Denmark says, good advertising sometimes is just about simplifying and then amplifying. So by making those choices, make it very simple to communicate what people can expect and then amplify it. And I think Volvo Trucks did an amazing job. They were well rewarded for that. They took some bold decisions, because I can quite easily imagine it was not about consensus. It was about taking a bold decision, but the outcome was I think, astonishing. Let's walk you through it.
I've had my ups and downs, my fair share of bumpy roads and heavy winds. That's what made me what I am today. Now I stand here before you. What you see is a body crafted to perfection, a pair of legs engineered to defy the laws of physics, and a mindset to master the most epic of splits.
once again, simplifying, amplifying, and going to a perfect execution. It's a hard task, but I'm quite sure you can do it. But what if I can't do it, Hans? What if in our company, somebody came up with a terrible name for a product or a service I have to launch, and I have this long list of all the elements that are quite relevant and I don't have the insights? Well, maybe I'm an optimist, so don't worry too much about that. I have one showcase, which is quite similar to that situation. And then I would say you can always revert to great agencies that can help you out with that. This is a case from Caterpillar. They launched a new service for their clients. And I think what the Simantel, the agency in America, did was quite amazing. Once again, it will revert to some of the elements I've been talking about, creating an emotional layer on your communication, although it's in B2B. So what they did was they launched a new service. It's the Customer Value Agreement. And so the question to the agency was, how can we bring this across and make sure that our target group understands what it's all about? Target group being clients and distributors.
Salutations, Construction Nation. Let's roll through a CVA. Or as the layperson calls it, a Customer Value Agreement. What are they, one might ask? A CVA, I reply. It's an easy ownership plan between you and your cat dealer that you put to work to change your work life. It's as hassle-free as 1, 2, 3. Get parts when promised, Caterpillar pays. And these are genuine cat parts, so you're protected way better than the parts store. No more blown injections. Get it out of here! Choose from self-service or dealer service. It's hassle-free maintenance either way. Because that's a CVA. What's the real deal? Security from Cat Dealer Support. No one's better at fighting downtime.
Sweet delay.
So who better to have your back? Nice shot, Johnny. And if something breaks, don't sweat your covered options. Your cat dealer's there to help cover the costs. With a CVA, you're secure today and the next day, every day. Don't mind me and my peace of mind. I'm just relaxing knowing my equipment's up and running. I got health alerts on my phone screen, so I know my machines are staying healthy. Plus, when something's wrong, my dealer calls me. Hang on, let me take this. It's peace of mind. That's a CVA. That's what I get paid to say. What do you get paid to do? Work. Keep working. Make it easy. Talk to your cat dealer about a CVA today.
I think that's just great work. You can actually see the list of keywords that marketing gave.
You chose Cat Equipment to get the most from your business. But to get the most from your equipment, it's all about keeping it easy to own and ready to work. That's a CVA.
Yeah, sorry for that. So, this being said, I'm at the end of my presentation. I hope it got to inspire you, gave you some real good takeaways. If you have any questions, you can always just throw them in the Q&A. Drop me a mail. Here's my email address. And for the rest, I hope to see some great work in the near future. Thank you very much. I don't see any specific questions, so I think most of it was clear. And I thank you a lot. Enjoy the afternoon. Bye-bye.